Hello, Tungsten Miner here. I am a little ways away from home at the moment, as you can see, exploring one of these ravines, um, because I was in the process of getting into Galacticraft, a mod that adds spaceships and travel to the moon and other planets, and I found that I needed aluminum. And, well, I just didn't have a whole lot of aluminum, so I wanted to go find some. In this world and in this mod pack, I've changed things around so that ores don't spawn where you'd expect them to. In fact, I've tried to copy as much as possible where ores spawn in the real world. Now, sometimes it's not very interesting, and sometimes it doesn't make for a very interesting game. And there's a lot of aspects of Minecraft that work that way. It's kind of realistic, but not so much as to be tedious. You couldn't punch a tree and knock it down that way. It just wouldn't work. So I've made some calls that make things less realistic in favor of being more fun to play, but try to balance things out. One of the things that I did to make that happen is you can see there's some copper ore with some redstone right next to it up there. And there's some more copper over there and some more redstone over there. Now, if you've played Minecraft at all before, you know redstone generally spawns very far. Okay, that was random. It spawns very far underground. Well, redstone doesn't really exist in the actual real world. It's something made up for Minecraft. But there is a kind of copper, it's not an alloy, I don't know what you'd call it, a copper molecule or copper substance that is both conductive and has this kind of bright glowing red sort of color. And so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to put redstone next to copper in this world. And copper is generally found a little bit below ground, kind of near the surface, so that's where I put copper in this world. So now, when you want to find redstone, you actually have to find copper, and there'll be little bits of it sprinkled in and amongst a deposit of copper. So you won't find a lot of redstone when you find it. You'll find it all mixed in little pieces. And so, yeah, it changes the dynamics of how you go looking for things. One of the things I found is that aluminum is generally found in hotter climates on Earth. So I've moved aluminum so that it occurs in fairly largish deposits of, let's see here, 14 blocks at a time in areas further to the south in all hot climates. And that, again, makes it more realistic and interesting in the game. If I zoom out here a bit, you can see I found an island. I brought my hot air balloon along, but I found an island here which is all hot climates. So there's a little bit of tropical shrubland. If I zoom over here, I think this is rainforest. Come on, a little bit further. Rainforest, yeah, there we go. That's better. Savanna, steppe. Yeah, so all of these are hot climates, and I've gone ahead and made myself a mine looking for aluminum. And in fact, you can see the opening to my mine right down here. Now, knowing that I've got a jetpack, I'm not too concerned about ladders and falling. Okay, so what have I got here? Well, you can see on my map, you can see when I'm in cave mode, there's this pattern of what turned out to be actually tunnels in my mine, all dug throughout here. And the reason I've done this, of course, is when I'm looking for aluminum, I know that the deposits are going to be big, right? They're going to be 14, 15, 20-something blocks of aluminum at a time, and they're going to be spread out over a pretty wide area. So I don't need to dig every single block out. And in fact, I don't even need to dig every other block or every third block. I dig every fifth block. So here I am, standing in my mine. Here's my tunnel coming up. And straight ahead, I've dug 5 times 5 meters in front of me, placing a torch every 5 meters. And over here, I've done the same. And on every branch along the way, that's 4 meters, that's 3 times 5, that's 2 times 5, 1 times 5, and then the last. And I've done the same thing on either side. So as I walk back in the middle, if you watch my map, you can see I've got this nice pattern of a diamond shape that grows out from the center. And as I decide that I want to find more ore, I'll keep expanding this pattern. So I can go to the very, very end, and I'll plant myself a torch here, and I'll dig 5 meters in this direction, and I'll dig 5 meters in this direction, 5 meters. Whoops, yeah, there we go. One thing that you'll notice too is I've got a lot of different kinds of stone down here. It's not all plain Minecraft stone. That's from underground biomes constructs. It adds a lot of different sorts of stones that you'd find in the real world. So this is dolomite and gabbro mostly in this particular cavern. And depending upon what sort of stone they are, they'll be harder or softer. Some will break into cobblestone, some won't. The mod adds bricks and slabs and staircases and all walls and all the kinds of things you can normally do with stone. Okay, so now that I've gotten that expanded out, I'm going to expand this tunnel out. 1 torch, 5 meters further along. And then I turn around and I go do the same thing on the other side. So what I'm effectively doing is taking every single tunnel that I've dug already and making it 5 meters longer than it was before, adding a torch down as kind of my marker for where I've been. Now this will get kind of dull if I go and do this all and you just sit here and watch me do some mining. So I'll finish this up and then be back with you in a moment. Okay, so here we are at the end of one of my other branches of the tunnel, and you can see I've dug my way into a ravine. And looking around here, I can see there's lots of monsters down there. Of course, I can see them because I've got night vision. Part of my Tinker's Construct Traveler's Goggles is, well, like other Tinker's Construct stuff, you can always integrate more pieces and components into it. So you can get yourself night vision by crafting your goggles with, I think it's a golden carrot, a potion of night vision, and a few other things. I forget exactly. I can look it up in a bit. And that way you can get night vision on command. I just use the G key in order to toggle that on and off again. So no night vision with night vision. Yeah, so I can see there's lots of mobs down there. I'm not too worried about them. This cobblestone little tunnel here is actually the next corridor over in my mining system. As I go along, I don't want to deal with mobs in my mine tunnels, so I generally will start not in a cave, but in just solid stone, and dig out my pattern from there. And when I run into caves, or ravines in this case, I fill in the tunnels so that the tunnel walls match exactly what I would have seen if I were going through. And of course, in this process, I've got lots and lots of stone, so it's no big deal. Well, yeah. So if I wanted to continue here, I'd build my tunnel across and do something very similar to what I've done here. So back to work. Here we are back at the end of another one of my branches, and here we've got some marble. Now this marble isn't from Underground Biomes Constructs, but instead it's coming from the chisel mod, which in addition to the chisel itself adds marble and limestone as 2 different types of blocks you can find in the world, and has lots of special patterns and ways of interacting with them, and the ability to make pillars and all sorts of stuff out of them. So whenever you find this stuff, it's good to write it down, make a mark of it so that you can get back to it later, because it's very handy for lots of different projects. Okay, back to work. Well, here I am. I've finished expanding this mine in every direction, all the way down to the very, very end, and I still haven't found any more aluminum. But what I have found is that my inventory is just about full, and I've only got 14 blocks of aluminum that I've found, which is kind of a disappointing result, to be honest. So what do I do? Well, ordinarily, I'd have to go all the way back home, get rid of some of this stuff, and then come back down again. And where's my balloon? There it is. Great. Skeletons in my balloon. But as you can see from my waypoint, I'm a little over 2 kilometers away from home, which is quite a long ways. Fortunately, I've brought with me my charged porter from RFTools. And in the base of my hot air balloon is a matter receiver, also from RFTools. So I can just right-click this guy and zap myself right back home again. And after a short delay, here I am, back in my home, right on my matter receiver in my RFTools room. So I'm going to go and spend a little while getting rid of some of this stuff, and then we'll head back down south again and see if we can't find some more aluminum. One thing that's interesting to note, different ways of dealing with different ores have different effects. So at the moment, I've tossed my copper ore into the pulverizer. And that's going to take the copper ore and produce 2 copper dusts each time it grinds one up. And every once in a while, it'll produce a little bit of gold. The copper ore gets shifted immediately into the redstone furnace, 2 at a time, and then gets smelted, and then goes up and gets dropped into this chest. So as I've been processing various things, they've wound up here. So I was making some smooth dacite earlier, and some silver and lead. But I've also got some redstone ore, and redstone ore I could put through the same process, and of course redstone ore normally will drop the redstone as soon as you break it, but my bronze hammer has silky touch on it. So I get the ore blocks themselves, and it turns out if you have the ore blocks, there's something better you can do with it. Toss them into your induction smelter from thermal expansion, and you're going to get out whole blocks of redstone, so 9 pieces of redstone all in one go. And every once in a while, you'll get a bit of rich slag. Rich slag is useful because if you use it instead of sand for most ores, you'll be much more likely to get extra outputs, and you'll get 3 ores instead of 2, and there's lots of good things that can happen. So when you get this stuff, keep a hold of it. So yeah, I'm going to let that process through, and I'm going to take myself to work in getting rid of all this other stuff in my inventory. Here I am down in my basement, and I'm trying to sort the stones, and it occurs to me this is like a tremendous waste of time. As cool as these barrels look, they're really kind of a pain in the neck to put things away, because I have to go look at my labels and just figure out one by one where all the different blocks go, and I've got some stuff in here that I've got no room for left, and there's some stuff in here that I don't have a space for. So I'm thinking this is aggravating, and it's totally not worth my time to do this. What I should do instead is set up something with storage drawers so that I can just drop everything in, and it just sucks it all up and drops it in the right places. And I can put void upgrades on things that I don't need any more of, so that when I try to stuff too much in that drawer, just deletes all of the excess. And that way I can just walk up to a single thing, double right click, and zoom. My inventory is empty and everything's sorted. But I haven't gotten that far, so I have to do it the slow way. Okay, got everything else put away. Let's go collect the last bits of aluminum. That's not too shabby. Drop that in there. Okay, so the other thing I thought might be interesting is to go look at how I've been looking for iron, which I do a little bit differently than looking for aluminum. Now, aluminum occurs anywhere at Y level 48 or so in this world, with the mod pack set up the way it is. But iron only appears fairly high up in the mountains. In fact, it only appears around Y level 128 or so. So what I've done is I've got myself a little trail, and this uses the Et Futurum mod to bring the 1.9 feature of these grass paths back all the way into 1.7.10, which is what this mod pack is based on. Anyway, so that leads me up to my iron mine. Now as I go in here, you can see on my map, I've dug out just about this entire mountaintop. In fact, you can see the extent of the mountaintop by the tunnels that I've dug through it. And what I've done is I've gone 25 meters in one direction and 5 meters in the other direction, putting down torches every 5 meters so that monsters can't possibly spawn in here. And as I was saying about my aluminum mine, I filled in all the little cracks and corners that I found so that I didn't have any problems with things appearing from outside of my mine. And every time I found a pocket of iron, I dig out that entire pocket and then move on and keep extending the pattern outwards. And that way I wound up completely divesting this mountaintop of all of the iron that I could find in it, which I suspect is probably all of the iron. Now, iron all the way up here? I thought iron was all the way down at Y level 55 and below or something. Well, not in this mod pack. I'm using the thermal expansion feature, which is not really very well known, of doing ore generation. So you can turn off the ore generation in all of the other mods. Industrial or immersive engineering adds some ores. You can turn that off. Gosh, what else adds ores? I forget. There's lots of things that add ores, and you can turn it all off using the settings in their config files, and then switch your config files for thermal expansion so that it takes over the generation of all of that stuff. And that way, you've got ore generation for exactly the things you want, exactly where you want them to be. And that's how I arrived at a lot of the more realistic generation. Iron is often found in mountains, and this is my silver mine. You can notice I'm at Y level about 96 or so. And I've used the same general pattern here. Look at my big map here. I'm looking for silver in a big area, so I know those deposits are pretty big. My iron deposits usually will net me somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2 stacks, 2.5 stacks of iron ingots. So the nice trade-off is that while you do have to do a lot more digging around and looking for things, you find a whole lot of it all at once, and you can generally finish off whatever your big project was all in one go. And you don't have to spend lots and lots of time just grinding and grinding and grinding to find enough iron or silver or whatever. Okay, let's head back to my aluminum mine. Now, I use my teleporter to get back here. I've gone and charged it up again so I can make the trip, but in the case of going back, I need to use my dialing device. So let's talk a little bit about teleportation through RFTools. The matter booster makes it so that when I teleport somewhere that doesn't have a charged matter receiver, it doesn't hurt me too much. The destination analyzer allows me to run a check to see if the place I'm teleporting to is both powered, in that the matter receiver is powered, but also that if I'm teleporting into an RFTools dimension, that the dimension itself is powered, because you don't want to teleport into an unpowered dimension or you just die instantly. This machine is the dialing device that controls all the actual connections and dialing from one place to another. And the two glowing spots behind it, one is the receiver, the yellow one, and one is the transmitter, the blue one. And this controls them both. So to start off with, here's the interface for the dialing device. Your sources, your matter transmitters are listed on the top. So I'm going to pick the one that's right here in my house. And then your destinations, all the different matter receivers you've put down in the world, are listed down below. So here I am looking at my list, and I don't see my hot air balloon, but I do suspiciously see this thing, which is in the overworld, and it's the only one that's not labeled. So probably something about Archimedes Ships picking up that object and putting it back down in the world has messed up this thing keeping track. So I'm going to check it. Matter receiver power low. I know that. It's in the airship. The airship doesn't have any power, so that's fine. It's not going to hurt me too much because I've got my matter booster. I want to go there, but I want the dialer to reset after I do that, so I'm going to say dial once. Dialing OK. Now I've got my matter stream, and all I need to do is step into the matter stream, and off I go. Okay, yeah. So I got a little bit hurt. I've got a touch of nausea, which has already gone away. And here I am back in my hot air balloon. I just traveled about 2.5 kilometers in just a second. This is an amazingly useful device, and especially coupled with the Archimedes Ships Mod, because you can bring this to wherever you want in the world and just leave it there. So whenever I'm on a trip, I've got my hot air balloon handy. Now, I've also got a jetpack, and I can fly up and down, but if I didn't, I've set up this hot air balloon so that it's got an extended drawbridge from Tinker's Construct mechanisms. And inside the drawbridge, I've got these treated wood scaffoldings from Immersive Engineering. Now, they look cool, but the nice thing about them is that they're a solid block which acts as a ladder. So here I am climbing down my ladder as it's extending towards the ground. down, 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 and it finally touches down at the ground. So I've got a block that acts just like a ladder that I can climb back up to my ship with. So even if I didn't have a jetpack, I could climb back up to my hot air balloon. So why is this important? Well, Archimedes Ships Mod is great. You can make tons of cool things, lots of neat vehicles in a way that you really can't do with anything else in Minecraft. But it has one flaw. It will try to pick up any and all blocks that are connected to that ship's helm, except for certain blacklisted ones. So dirt and grass and a few other things are out. But if I land too close to a tree, if I land too close to some stone, it'll try and pick up those blocks and carry them along, which is very inconvenient, and it can only pick up about 2,000 blocks or so, and I don't want to take half the island with me. So after a lot of tinkering around, I thought of adding this drawbridge so that when I stop the balloon and deconstruct it and put it back in the world, I can extend the gangplank down and then get up and down without needing a jetpack, even if I happen to have one. And before I had my jetpack, of course, this was the way that I'd get up and down. And I can add it up to a full stack of these treated wood scaffoldings. So I can have my airship quite a ways up in the air and still have that reach all the way down to the ground. Well, here I am, back in my aluminum mine. Got a bunch more work to do to go dig things out, but I think you get the gist. So I think I'll leave it off here. As always, leave some comments. Tell me what you want to see. Any questions, anything I didn't cover, let me know. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates in the future. And otherwise, talk to you later.